If your dog is reactive towards other dogs and they're barking, lunging, pulling, and walking them in public is just frustrating and embarrassing, in this video, I'm gonna give you the exact 4-step reactivity system that I've used to help hundreds of owners eliminate their dog's reactivity and achieve off-leash control. Just like Ronnie, before training, she couldn't get within 30 feet of another dog without lunging, barking, and snarling. Now she's fully off-leash trained and she can walk right past other dogs like they don't even exist. Or like Olive, who used to bark, lunge, and freak out whenever she saw other dogs on the walk. Now she's able to listen to commands even around other dogs and calmly ignore them during walks. Or like Mate, who used to be explosively reactive towards other dogs. Now he's fully off-leash trained and can walk past other dogs with ease. Or like Ada, who would explode whenever she saw another dog in the environment. Now she couldn't care less about other dogs and only focuses on her handler. And in this video, I'm gonna give you my exact 4-step reactivity system completely for free. In step 1, you'll learn why your dog is reactive and what type of reactivity your dog has. In step 2, I'll show you how to set your foundations. This is the step that most reactive dog owners skip, and it's the reason why they fail. In step 3, I'll show you how to plan your first reactivity session and show you exactly what to do during the session. And in step 4, I'll show you how to completely eliminate your dog's reactivity. And I'll be giving you examples with real untrained reactive dogs throughout the video, so by the end, you'll know how to walk right past other dogs like they aren't even there. So before you even attempt to fix your dog's reactivity, you first must understand why your dog is reactive in the first place. So what is reactivity? Reactivity is when your dog is barking, lunging, or pulling towards other dogs that they see in the environment. Now, reactivity is not to be confused with aggression. If you're watching this video and your dog is biting and attacking other dogs, you need to get off YouTube and go work with a trainer in person. But if your dog is reactive and they're showing these types of behaviors towards other dogs on your walks, this video will help you fix it. So why is your dog reactive? Well, your dog has learned that being reactive leads to something desirable, so they repeat it. And in behavioral terms, the reactivity is being reinforced in some way. Something is happening that is increasing the frequency of that behavior. Dogs are very simple. They're going to repeat behaviors that lead to good outcomes. So now you might be asking yourself, well, what is this good outcome? What is this desirable thing that my dog gets from performing this behavior? Well, that leads me to my next point. What type of reactivity does your dog have? And this is an exercise that I want you guys to go through because identifying this is very important. Understanding the type of reactivity your dog has will tell you how the behavior is being reinforced, as well as the emotion that's motivating the reactivity in the first place. So for fear reactivity, your dog is afraid or unsure around the other dogs. So let me give you an example with Hira, the German Shepherd. So we met up at the park for the evaluation, and for every dog that she passed by, she would exhibit this reactive behavior. And when she reacts, I want you to notice the tone, the pitch of her bark, and then I want you to notice her body language as the other dog passes. So this is her. All right, you see that behavior there? Woo, 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 woo. Half lunge, half back up, right? That's very characteristic. That tone, the bark is very characteristic, right? A lot of dogs will offer this type of behavior inside the house as well if they see other dogs or people outside or something that spooks them, right? So listen to this. So for the fear reactive dog, your dog isn't trying to attack the other dog. They're actually trying to avoid the other dog. And I know that seems a little bit confusing, right? Especially when you're looking at it. Looks like, they're trying to do something to the other dog. They're not. They're trying to avoid them. They're trying to make space between themselves and the other dog. Your dog has simply learned that being reactive makes the other dog go away. They've learned that being reactive keeps me safe, right? Your dog sees that other dog in the environment. I don't know how to feel about this. Woo, 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 woo. Oh, the other dog goes away. Oh, that worked. Next time I see the dog, woo, woo, woo. Other dog goes away. Nice. This works. Okay, perfect. I'm going to start doing this every time I see other dogs because it will keep me safe. You see? They're not trying to attack. They're trying to avoid. All right? So that's fear reactivity. Now, arousal-based reactivity is very different. This is when your dog is excessively aroused or excited in the presence of other dogs. So let me give you a couple examples of this. So this is Diesel back when he was a puppy, but pay close attention to his behavior on the leash and his barking.
Heel. Heel. Diesel. Heel. Diesel.
Right? You hear how the barks are faster, a bit higher pitched, right? They happen in greater frequency even here as well, right? Now let me give you another example of arousal-based reactivity. So this is Max. I want you to pay close attention as he passes these other dogs. Watch him. Right? See this behavior there? Super excited. Oh my gosh, this is like, oh wow. See? Very aroused. Now, the important thing to note here is that your dog isn't being aggressive or trying to attack the other dog. They're actually just frustrated because you're holding them back on the leash, right? They've learned that, and they don't have to have learned all these things, just one will do. They've learned that being reactive gets them to the other dog. This is really common, especially with people who have puppies. Their puppy gets really excited and then barking and going crazy, and then they walk right up to the other dog, right? In that situation, you added something which increased the frequency of that behavior, right? Another common thing that happens is, and this is applicable if you've done any type of balance training already, if you've ever noticed, like, man, when I correct my dog's reactivity, he gets worse. He gets more reactive. He gets more excited, right? Your dog may have learned that being reactive makes the correction go away. Negative reinforcement, right? The removal of this increased the frequency of this behavior, which is a very bad lesson, but we will show you how to fix it later on in this video. And the one that will apply to pretty much all of you guys watching this, if you have an arousal reactive dog, is being reactive is fun. It's intrinsically reinforcing. Your dog enjoys the act of barking and lunging and pulling towards the other dog that they see in the environment. They dump all that arousal out towards that dog. They enjoy it, even if they never even get to the other dog. It's reinforcing. It's self-reinforcing, right? So much so that your dog will start seeking it out in the environment on your regular walks, right? That'll start to become the highlight. They'll look forward to seeing another dog out so they can just blow up at them and then go on to doing the next thing, right? So that's arousal-based reactivity. Now, the most common type of reactivity that I see is a combination of the two emotions, fear and arousal, right? So your dog feels excited and afraid around other dogs. They're aroused, but also unsure, right? People forget that you can have two of these emotions. You can feel both of these things at the same time, all right? Is there anything that you've been excited about, but also a little afraid of? Right? It's the same thing. And so let me give you a few examples of that because it's by far the most common. So here's an example with Disco. Watch the behavior. You see, it's a mix of everything. Like you've got the arousal, definitely, but you've also got the not too sure about this, little back hops, right? Little frustration in there as well, held back on the leash, but also unsure. You see, so it's a little mix of everything, right? That's like a perfect 50-50 mix. Now, here's another example of one that's skewed more into the arousal direction, right?
Fine.
Right? So definitely aroused, but also just a little unsure. And I'll give you another example with Olive, the border collie. It's a bit more tricky. Right? So you can definitely, the border collie, you can definitely see that arousal, but also a little unsure. right? Little half lunge back up, starts barking, half lunge back up, right? You can see that mix there, right? So this is the most common type of reactivity I've seen. Again, they can exist in different degrees, more or less fear, more or less arousal. And it can also start out as fear. This is a really common one. It can start out as fear, like initially your dog is afraid or unsure of the other dog. But then over time, it starts to just become self-reinforcing. Like the dog actually starts to enjoy it. They start to look forward to it. And so this is also very common. So yeah, most of you watching this video have probably got some type of mix, but you can also have just one or the other as well, right? So the action step here, I want you to identify what type of reactivity does your dog have? How is their reactivity being reinforced? What is the desirable outcome that they're experiencing when they offer that behavior towards other dogs? I want you to write that down and get really clear on it, because we're going to come back to it later on in the training when we're going to address their emotion, all right? And keep in mind that these are general buckets that your dog's reactivity and behavior likely fall into, but every reactive dog is slightly different. So if you want me and my team to help you with your individual dog, check out my private training program. It's the first link in the description. We give you a weekly training plan and personalized feedback based on your specific dog and your unique situation. Every dog that you see inside this video is inside of our private program. So if you're interested in getting these types of results with your dog, check it out. It's the first link in the description. So now that you know why your dog is reactive and what type of reactivity your dog has, it's time to move on to step 2, where we set your foundations. One of the biggest reasons I see reactive dog owners fail is that they skip straight to the reactivity without having any grasp of the basics. This is like trying to race a Formula 1 car without knowing how to drive. Of course you're gonna fail. It's gonna result in catastrophic failure. We need to put you in a more appropriate vehicle first, so you learn the basic mechanics of driving: gas and brakes and steering and turning. That way, when we put you back in the Formula 1 car, you don't die. You can go around the racetrack, and even though it's maybe not perfect or fast in the beginning, you can make it another lap to give it another go and give it another go, and you start improving that way. You see? That's how you have to start. You have to acquire some basic handling skills before attempting to fix your dog's reactivity. Otherwise, failure is guaranteed. So let me show you how to set a strong foundation with your dog. These are all action items, highly practical, so pay attention. Do not skip to step 3, okay? You need to do this before you fix your dog's reactivity. So first things first, stop all unproductive social interactions. You need to stop going to the dog park. Stop going to doggy daycare. Stop letting your dog interact with random dogs out on the walk. If you've got a fear reactive dog, this is not going to help you. If you've got a dog who gets way too excited and loses their mind around other dogs, this is not going to help you. You see, you need to cut these things out. Stop them. Eliminate them right now. These are easy. Just delete. This here, all you have to do, hey, can our dog say hi? No thanks, we're training. And then you walk away. Yes, that's all you have to do. Now, here's the rationale or the thinking behind this. Because again, you need to understand why you're doing this stuff before you do it. So for every action item I give you, I'm always going to explain my thinking behind it. So, rationale. You lack the skills required to influence your dog's behavior when they're around other dogs. That's why they're reactive, right? You need to stop allowing these social interactions. You need to stop accidentally making the problem worse while you develop your skills and establish some basic control when they aren't around other dogs first. Now, the next thing you need to do is create order inside the house. If you cannot control your dog inside the house, you cannot reasonably expect to control them outside the house, right? Doesn't make any sense. So here are the action items. Clean your house. Go and pick up all of the toys that are laying on the floor, all of their bones and chews and whatever else you got laying around. Go and pick up all the stuff, put it in a box, put it out of reach of the dog. That stuff will come out intentionally, right? You're not just going to leave it out willy-nilly, okay? The next thing you need to do is keep your dog in a crate when you can't supervise them. Keep your dog on a place board when you can supervise them, and keep them on a leash inside the house if they are free. All right. These three things right here, I call the great reset. All right. By hitting the reset button, all those behavior problems that you have inside the house, like when your dog is like, barking out the window and like, kind of eating the trash and like, kind of goes and takes your shoe and like, kind of pees on this thing sometimes, like all of those problems will immediately drop to 0 once you do this. Okay. Doing this is important because it means that you won't hate your dog. All right. And I say this half jokingly, but not really. Like if your dog is offering like some undesirable behaviors in the house, it can be very difficult to like them. Seriously. And it's very, very hard to make any progress with the dog that you do not like. It just creates conflict. You subconsciously resent the dog, or consciously, right? And so you need to like your dog, okay? So that's why I have people do this for the first 1 to 2 weeks when they first start training, right? The great reset, do it. Next thing, keep them on a consistent, predictable routine, all right? When you develop a routine with your dog will learn to associate certain behaviors and activities with specific times of the day. So for example, they'll know when it's time to wake up, when it's time to walk, when it's time to eat, when it's time to nap, when it's time to play, when it's time to go on a potty break. Like they'll learn all of those things and the appropriate behaviors in each of those contexts, right? But when you're just random, like just doing things randomly, that's when you get dogs who are like trying to eat when it's time to be sleeping and trying to play when it's time to be napping and like trying to potty when they're trying in the house. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to have some basic structure here. And when I say routine, I don't mean like drill sergeant military. I mean like old senior citizen, just like consistent. There's some variation, but overall very predictable, That's what I mean by routine, okay? Now, the significance of this. You learn, by doing this, you learn how to set basic boundaries inside the house. You learn how to be consistent and show up every day for your dog. Your dog learns that you have authority over them inside the house. You have power over their entire day. It's all facilitated by you and through you. Now, major key, all right? Throughout the video, I'm going to drop these major keys. These are key lessons or insights that you need to pay attention to. Major key. If you object to this, you need to learn how to get over your emotions and do what your dog needs you to do, not what you selfishly feel good about doing. This is critical if you've got a reactive dog. You need to get over this before you have any hope at fixing your dog's reactivity. All right? So again, all of these things are done with intention. There's a reason why I'm telling you to do all these things. All right. So now that you've got some basic stuff going on inside the house, now it's time to make some basic control outside the house. So for most of you watching this video, your dog pulls you on the leash like a sled dog, right? On walks, your dog doesn't even know you're there. You don't even exist as far as they're concerned. You're an inconvenience. You're a weight at the end of the leash that they have to drag around to get to where they want to go. You're an annoyance. That's literally what you are to them. If they're constantly pulling you on the leash, it's no surprise they're reactive. Now, the good news is that in order to fix this, it only takes 15 to 30 minutes to train loose leash walking. Even for the most prolific leash pullers of all time who have been pulling for years, you can fix this in 15 to 30 minutes, right? So let me give you the quick rundown. So here are the actions. You're going to need to buy a 2.25 millimeter Herm Springer prong collar and a 6-foot leash made of nylon or biothane, all right? I don't recommend any shorter or longer in the beginning, especially if you live in like a, city type area. And I don't recommend the bigger size, the 3 millimeter, unless your dog is over like 100 pounds, all right? So 2.25 millimeter. Environment to start this. You're going to start out in your driveway or your parking garage, okay? Baby steps here, low distractions. Phase 0, you're going to introduce your dog to the prong collar. So put the prong collar on. You're going to make very slight, very gentle directional pressure using the leash attached to the prong collar. Just hold it. And once your dog feels it, it's a little uncomfortable, and then they decide on their own to give into that pressure by turning it off and coming towards you, then you release the pressure, give them praise, or you can mark it with your reward marker and reward them with food once they get to you, right? And you're gonna repeat this until your dog is reliably turning off the pressure very well, all right? Next phase, phase 1, is the U-turn phase. You're gonna start out again in your low distraction environment, and you're gonna walk back and forth doing U-turns. If your dog catches the turn, great, give them praise. You can even offer a reward, a food reward if you want. And if your dog doesn't hit the turn, they hit the end of the leash. And that's it, all right? You're gonna repeat until your dog is no longer hitting the end of the leash and they're catching your U-turns. All right, next phase, phase 2, is the sporadic walking phase. In this phase, you're gonna start walking and changing your directions abruptly. Change your pace, change your speed, move around, try to lose your dog, see what they do. If they lose you and they get distracted, they hit the end of the leash. If they don't, and they're checking in with you and paying attention and doing a good job catching all your crazy movements, you can give them praise. You can even reward them with food if you'd like. And in phase 3, this is the final phase where we punish the pulling. All we do here is when the dog makes any tension on the leash, when we feel that leash go tight, we are going to pop firmly on the leash. So think about the end of the leash as hot, right? If they tap the end of the leash and come right off, okay, nothing bad happens. But if they pull into it, pop. See? Consequence. They pull into it, pop. They pull into it, pop, right? That's what you want the dog to learn. You want them to learn the end of the leash is hot. They do not want to stay there. If they feel it, they immediately back off and give into the pressure. And to maintain this, all you have to do is remain on phase 3. You simply just increase the pressure until you see a reduction in the behavior. What you're doing is you're punishing the behavior of pulling. So if you see the behavior decrease, it means you're on the right track. If it's not decreasing, you are not using enough pressure. You need to increase the pressure that you're using in phase 3. And that's it. Again, it's a very simple behavior to train. It only takes about 15 to 30 minutes. Now, here's the rationale or the thinking behind this. If your dog is pulling you on the leash, they're ignoring you on the most fundamental level. But by teaching the loose leash walking, you and your dog go from being in conflict on the walk, like you want this and they want this, you're both frustrated with each other, to now you're on the same page. Sounds pretty good, right? And in doing this, you set your first basic boundary outside on the walk. Your dog learns that you're willing to set and enforce and maintain those boundaries. You're not joking around. You're very clear, you're fair, and you're consistent with your consequences. Every time you pull, there is this aversive consequence that follows every single time. See? Also, you learn how to use a leash. Very helpful. Your dog also learns that there are things that they cannot do outside. This is a big one, all right? And this is going to come into play later on in the training. Now, the major key here, you learn that if you tell your dog to stop doing something, they don't hate you. They just stop doing that thing. Okay, this might sound very trivial to some of you, but many of you are like fully bought into the force-free propaganda. You're just like, if I do this, my dog is going to hate me and our relationship's going to crumble and everything's going to be destroyed. It's like, nope, believe it or not, if you tell your dog to stop doing something, they just stop doing that thing. That's it. That's literally it. And if anything, your relationship improves because now when you're walking your dog, you're not like frustrated at them because they're pulling you around the whole time and they're frustrated at you because you're holding them back and it's just this terrible walk. Now it's like you both enjoy it. They're not choking themselves out anymore. They're free to engage with the environment. You like walking your dog now. You look forward to it. You see, like, this is the beginning of building your relationship, all right? Not destroying it, all right? So this is a really important major key. We're going to come back to this when we talk about how to eliminate your dog's reactive behavior. Next thing that you need to do, once you've got the loose leash walking out of the way, is you need to set some basic obedience, all right? So obedience training is so much more than just sit for a treat in the living room. It's how you and your dog learn how to talk to each other. Literally. All right, I'm not exaggerating. So here are the action items here. You need to teach your dog how to sit in down using a food lure to start out. Just lure them into position, up into the sit, down into the down. Next thing you need to do is teach your dog how to sit in down using leash pressure. Teach them that when you make pressure up on the leash, the solution is to get into the sit and then the pressure goes away. When you pull down on the leash, they need to get in the down and then the pressure goes away. The next thing you need to do, once you've got those two, is teach your dog how to sit and down using a verbal cue, right? So teach your dog, sit and down, the words, right? To test this, you're like, Miles, I already know, my dog knows that. I want you to stand in front of your dog, put your hands in your pockets, no head movement, down, and see what they do. Okay, if they drop into the down, great. But for many of you, your dog doesn't actually know the command. They know down, like this, down, sit, right? No, hands in pockets, no head movement. Give the command. If they do it, then they know it, all right? So teach the verbal cue. To do that, it's very simple. All you do is just, you add the cue first. So stand very neutral, add the cue, down, and then come in with the help, whether it's leash pressure or the food lure.
Sit. Good boy. Good.
And then you do this and you just classically condition the verbal cue to the behavior. All right, so that's what you need to do there. Once you've got that out of the way and your dog knows it, then you start challenging it. So you're gonna teach your dog how to stay in the sit or down, even around distractions, by throwing a ball, running away, baby talking them, whatever it is, whatever you think could get your dog to break the position is what you need to train for, okay? So teach your dog a durable sitting down. Now, here's the rationale or the thinking behind this.
Sit.
If you cannot complete these tasks, we can reasonably assume that you also lack the skills required to fix your dog's reactivity. When you can teach the basic obedience like this, it means that you understand how your dog learns. You know how to teach behaviors. You know how to reinforce behaviors positively or negatively using the leash. You know how your dog responds to pressure in the training. You understand the importance of timing and markers. Your dog learns that cooperating with you and controlling their impulses leads to desirable outcomes. You see? And so there's so many things, skills that you're developing here. You and your dog are both developing on this step here. You guys are becoming a team now at this step. Now, the major key here is that you learn how to learn. You learn how to form a plan, test it, get feedback, and change what you do next time. It might sound silly, but a lot of people genuinely, they forget how to learn. Truly, I'm not even joking. Like, they form a plan, they test it, and then it doesn't work, and they get all emotional. They get frustrated. They get upset. They get irritated. They get angry. And then they give up, and they start blaming the dog. They say things like, it's his breed, it's his age, he's stubborn. Like, they start saying all of these things, when in reality, they just don't know how to learn, right? And so you have to get used to this. Like, this here is dog training. It's what it is. And you have to get used to this. You have to get used to learning again, right? A lot of people forget what it feels like to do something that they don't know how to do, right? And so this is a great way to practice all of this because it's challenging, but not too challenging. It's just challenging enough, right? And by going through it, you start to build your confidence again. It starts to become more fun. The key in dog training is you have to view it as not problems, okay? These aren't problems. These are puzzles. Okay, that's how I think about it. Like, Miles, like, about this problem. He does this. He won't get into the down position. It's not a problem. It's a puzzle. Why doesn't he? What have you tried? What do you think might work? What does this person do? Oh, how might we take that and use it for our dog? Oh, when we do that, what does the dog do? Oh, well, what happens if we do this? You see, it's a puzzle. It's not a problem. When it's a problem, you view it like a problem. You get like frustrated about it. Like, it's just a puzzle. You got to come into it with that open, curious mind. You're coming into it, looking to learn, looking to ask questions, right? Investigating. That's dog training. That's what's fun about it, right? And so you've got to learn how to do that here before you go into a high stakes situation like dealing with reactivity. So now that you've got the basic obedience, now it's time to move on to the last prerequisite, the last thing you need to do before attempting to fix your dog's reactivity, and that is play. So for many of you, your dogs being reactive on walks is the highlight of their day. That's fucked. We obviously need to change that, all right? Because you're going to take away the reactivity, their favorite part of the day. What are they going to look forward to instead? Well, the highlight should be something that you both look forward to doing together. That is everything. Something exciting, something fun, something that makes you smile, and something that your dog dreams about. Something that they wake up in the morning, they're like, oh, man, I really can't wait to do that thing with mom today. Oh man, I really hope I get to do that thing with dad today. Like that. That is the thing. It's with you. This is a critical piece of the relationship. And what is that thing? Well, for me, the answer is very simple. It's play. So here are the action items, right? And you're going to do these in order. So if your dog has no desire to play or it's been underdeveloped, then here's what to do. So you want to play at the same place, at the same time, every day for 7 minutes. Okay? The reason why you want to keep these things the same is because your dog will start to contextualize this activity with this specific environment and time and location, right? And so they'll start to anticipate this activity in this context. See? So it's very helpful when you're developing it. The next thing you want to do once you're doing that is you want to get your dog interested in a toy. So if your dog isn't interested in anything, that's the first step, right? So what I would recommend doing is just buying a wide variety of toys at first. Everything. Get a squeaky ball, a soft frisbee, a rope toy, a soft plushy toy, whatever. Get every toy you can get. Everything. Get everything. And just pick a different one every session and see what kind of gets your dog going. Oh, squeaky ball kind of catches their interest. Oh, the blue toy kind of catches their interest. Oh, the soft toy they kind of like you'll notice these little things, and then you can lean into it, right? Now, once you've got your dog interested in a toy, the next thing to do is teach them how to play a game. Okay, there's a difference between playing and playing a game. There's a difference between kids playing with a ball and kids playing soccer. Understand? A game has an objective, it has rules, it has consequences for breaking the rules. You see, there's players that are on the same level, you see, like playing with each other or playing against each other, you see? And so that's what you want to do here by teaching a game, like tug or fetch, right? Now, do whatever one comes more natural to your dog. Don't try to fight it, don't try to force it. Whatever you see kind of gets your dog going, they kind of like, picking it up and maybe running away with it. Okay, maybe some tug, some possession type games, right? Maybe they like really chasing after that ball. Okay, now we transition to fetch, you see? And then once you've got that going and you've got the basic objective down, so they're grabbing the toy, they're running after and chasing it. Now, next thing you need to do is teach the dog how to bring the toy back and let go of it, right? So you do this on a leash, on a long line, right? Get the dog to bring the toy back and teach them how to let go on command to keep the game going, all right? So the rationale here, play develops many skills simultaneously. You learn how to build motivation. You learn how to read your dog, how to take what your dog is telling you and interpret it and change what you do. You learn how to you also increase cooperation between yourself and your dog. You're learning how to work together to have a good time. You are establishing authority in the game as well, right? You're like, hey, let go of the toy. And they're like, no. And you're like, let go of the toy. You see? Authority. You also increase your dog's self-confidence. Very important if you've got a dog who is fear reactive towards other dogs. You see how these things are connected? It also gives your dog a productive outlet for all their energy and arousal. You see how it's connected? It also teaches them impulse control when they're in a high state of arousal and so much more, right? And plus, of course, it's fun. Training should be fun. It should be enjoyable. The reason this is important is because when training is fun, everything happens faster. Learning happens faster for you and for your dog, by the way. And so it's important that we have fun things that we look forward to doing with our dogs. If you're not having a good time, it's going to be a very, very, very challenging journey. All right. So that's play. So that's your foundation, guys. That's everything you need to do to set a strong foundation. Most reactive dog owners fail here on step 2 because they either don't know what's involved in creating a strong foundation, or they know what's involved, but they simply do it wrong and they don't even realize it. So if you want help setting these foundations for your individual dog, check out our private training program. It's the first link in the description. We show you how to do each of these things step by step, and we give you feedback to ensure that you're actually doing it correctly. So if you want that level of hands-on support from me and my team, check out our private training program. It's the first link in the description. Warning. Skipping step 2 will result in catastrophic failure. You need to have a strong foundation before you begin step 3. And it doesn't take long. Step 2 only takes like a week, 2 weeks maximum. All right. So have a strong foundation before moving on to step 3. All right. Step 3. Now that you've got a good foundation, it's time to plan your first reactivity session. Yes, you have to plan a session. All right. Most people try to address their dog's reactivity willy-nilly during their walks. They see a YouTube video and they're like, oh, I'll try that on my next walk. Terrible idea. Absolutely terrible idea. Why is it a terrible idea? Well, I want you to think about where your dog has the greatest history of reinforcement engaging in this behavior. Around your neighborhood walk, your regular walk that you always go on. Your dog is coming into the environment waiting to be reactive at dogs, looking for it. They're scanning the environment, headhunting for dogs, waiting to react. That is the worst place you would want to go to start this entire process, right? You're just setting yourself up for failure right off the hop, right? Terrible spot for learning for you and for your dog. You need to set up a dedicated session that is more conducive to learning for you and your dog. I'm going to walk you through the beginning all the way through to the middle and then also the end, all right? So this is what your first session is going to look like. Take notes. Before the session, you need to prepare, okay? So I want you to choose your difficulty level. If this was a video game, here's the levels ranked from easiest to hardest. So level 1, easiest difficulty mode, is having a helper dog. This is when you ask your friend, family member, coworker, whoever's got a dog, you ask them, hey, can you help me train? And they'll say, sure. Great. That is a helper dog. They're going to show up. They're going to stand there on a leash with their dog, and then you do your thing, right? That's level 1. I recommend everybody start here. And there's different levels of helper dogs, right? You've got like your neighbor who's got like a 12-year-old senior lab, and then you've got like your uncle who's got like that crazy ass dog, you know? So like there's different levels, but overall, helper dog is level 1. Like this is where you want to start, okay? Next level, a fence dog. Right? This is a dog behind a fence. This is a dog, you know, you're walking around and that dog is always outside barking at you guys, you know? That's a fence dog, okay? If you don't have access to any helper dogs, or if you exhausted your list of helpers, then the next thing I'd approach is the fence dog, okay? So these are good. The next level, level 3, is the dog park, all right? Not inside the dog park, outside the dog park. So, you know, dog park has a nice fence around it, you know, ideally a nice chain link fence. The other dogs are inside, you know, going crazy, and you're hanging out on the outside, ideally in like some grass area or something like that. And the other dogs can see you, your dog can see the other dog, and that's a great place to practice. Now, the last, final boss, level 4 difficulty, is the random dog on your regular walk. This is the hardest by far, right? Think about who your dog has the highest history reinforcement being reactive towards. It's these dogs, right? A random dog, like they're ready for it. Like on your regular walk, your dog is scanning the environment, head hunting for dogs, looking for them, waiting to be reactive towards them. You see, this is the hardest by far. That's why in the beginning, you need to set up these sessions first to build your skills and to teach them also, but mainly to build your skills. That way, when you attack this, you can actually do it successfully and it doesn't result in failure, right? So I, again, strongly recommend setting these up first, okay? And going through it, again, if you can, in this order. Now, the next thing you need to do is choose your environment. So pick a favorable environment. Like if you're doing a helper dog, like don't meet up in the parking lot. Like meet up in a nice, park, open space, grass, trees, like meet there. If you're going to a dog park, be strategic about the dog park that you're going to. You're going to a like smaller one, more local, or you're going to like a busy, crazy ass one. Like, be strategic about it, Next thing, choose a date and a time. This affects the session, right? If you go to the dog park on a 6 p.m. on a Friday, it's going to be really busy, right? But if you go in the morning, it's going to be basically empty. Next thing, you want to ask a friend to record your session. So if you're doing a helper, have them just record. Like they just stand there with the dog and record, all right? Record you and your dog. Or if you're doing like a session like this, then have someone tag along behind you and record, all right? Or alternatively, just buy a tripod, like off Amazon, like a $30 tripod, really cheap, doesn't have to be fancy, but getting footage will be really important later on in the training. If you want to be real fancy, you can get a GoPro or some shit, but you don't have to, all right? Next thing is set a clearly defined goal for the session. And we're going to come back to this later, but it's really important for your sessions that you have a clear objective, a singular focus. You're not drifting aimlessly, willy-nilly, trying to remember. Like you've got a clear intention for this session, right? You want to review your notes from this video. So if you've been taking notes throughout this video, like I know some of you are, you want to review these notes before your session, just to refresh your memory. And you want to have every scenario planned out in your head. If this, then this. If my dog does this, I do this. If this happens, then I do this. If my dog does this, I do this. You've got everything mapped out. There's no like open loops. There's no things you're uncertain about. Like you've got it all mapped out, okay? You're like a chess grandmaster with it. Like you've got all the moves pre-planned. Now, major key. In order for all of this to work, in order to eliminate your dog's reactivity, you need to be smarter than your dog. You need to be able to predict what your dog will do before they do it. All right? Most of you guys are slow, like really slow. Like your dog is catching you by surprise. Like you're all walking your dog and like, oh, they reacted. And then like you're responding with, you're like reacting to their reaction. Like there's moves ahead of you, right? You've got to get ahead of them, right? And don't worry, every reactive dog owner starts out this way, right? Everybody starts out slow. But as you practice and as you gain experience, you'll start to see things differently. You'll start to identify these patterns that your dog operates in, right? Instead of being like, oh, it's random, oh, I don't know, there's no pattern, it's unpredictable. Instead of saying these things, you start to notice the specific patterns because your dog is wired very simply. It's just stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. I see that, I do. It's very simple, right? There's not a whole lot of computational power going on. There's not like an internal dialogue. Like it's very simple in how they operate. And so once you go through this process, you'll start identifying these patterns. And then through practice and experience, you'll start to gain more predictive confidence, right? But yes, I am being serious though. You do need to be moves ahead of your dog. Like there'll come a point in the training where like your Sharingan activates and you just start seeing everything in slow motion. And it's like, oh, like it like time slows down and it's like, oh, it's a dog over there. If that dog does this, my dog will do this. If I do this, my dog will do this. Like you'll legit see it in slow motion, but it takes practice to get there, right? So yes, you need to be smarter than your dog. So now that you've prepared for the session, you've got everything planned out. Now the date has finally come around. It's time. So here's how to begin the session. You want to start out the session strong with the warm-up. So I recommend showing up 15 minutes early and reviewing your plan. You want to show up early so that you're not stressed out and panicking. Like show up early, more calm that way. Review your plan, review your notes, review your goal for the session, rehearse everything. Like if this happens, then this, like play it all out mentally, envision like what your dog will probably do during the session. Start out that way. Next thing, once you got that and you're good, start out with a quick warm up. So open the car door, make sure your dog stays at the car door. Release them. I like putting the dog in a down immediately. Make sure they get into the down, nice. Close the door, lock up, whatever. Then check the loose leash walking. Make sure they're not pulling you on the leash. Then check the basic obedience, sits, downs, whatever your dog knows, right? Just to make sure that you and your dog are on the same page and it sets the tone for the rest of the session, all right? So start with a good warm up. Now that you've done that, it's time to begin the session. So throughout the entire session, your dog should never be pulling you on the leash, all right? This is like, I need you to ingrain this into your soul. Your dog is not pulling you on the leash throughout the entire session, all right? It is not happening. Zero pulling. If they pull you, you need to punish the pulling, all right? This is why we did the loose leash walking before. Your dog should show avoidance to the behavior of pulling on the leash, all right? So you should be able to walk your dog with the leash dangling off your pinky finger. That's how loose the leash should be. Like your dog feels the slightest bit of tension, they come right off, like immediately. Zero tension on the leash. So now that your dog is warmed up and they're maintaining a loose leash, it's time to get into the juicy stuff, the stuff you guys have been waiting for. Take notes. I'm about to show you examples with real, untrained reactive dogs. So, freedom of response. During the session, your dog should have complete freedom of response. No commands. No commands. There are only two rules at this point: no pulling and no reacting. Other than that, the dog is free to sniff, look around, explore, pee on stuff. They can do whatever they want. They just cannot pull on the leash and they cannot react at the other dog. That's it. Those are only two rules right now. All right? That's it. Again, just to reemphasize, we do not give them any commands. Okay? If the dog tries to put themselves in obedience, we release them. They'll try to put themselves in the heel position. Okay, break. We walk away from them. See? Get out of there. If the dog tries to put themselves in a sit, we keep walking back on the loose leash, right? We do not give them any commands. Most people and most trainers hide the dog in obedience. They try to prevent the dog from reacting, right? You've been conditioned, like when you see the other dog, sit, heel, name, come, treats, scatter food on, like, nope. Not doing any of that stuff. We're not distracting them. We're not avoiding the other. We're not giving the command. None of that stuff. Give them complete freedom of response. Because if you're constantly making decisions for them in their training, or you're preventing them from making their own decisions, you're going to have a dog that you forever have to manage. You understand? If you want a dog that you can trust just to make good decisions on their own, even away from you, even off leash, even around other dogs, you have to allow them to make decisions in the training. You've got to give them the freedom to make those decisions. And your job is to simply attach consequences to those decisions. Give them the freedom. And when they react, we move on to the next step. So when your dog reacts, we must punish the undesired response, aka the reactivity. We apply an aversive consequence to decrease the frequency of this behavior. It's the definition of punishment. All right, so here's what it looks like, and I'm going to give you an example with actual reactive dogs. So if the dog chooses to react, the moment they react, the moment they offer that behavior, we mark it with no. No is our punishment marker. When the dog hears this signals, it captures the exact behavior in the moment. Think about it like a screenshot. The moment they offer that behavior, we mark it with no. Then they are fucked. This signals the beginning of our punishment event. They committed the crime, we marked it, and now here is the consequence. Inside of this punishment event, we deliver an aversive consequence that communicates to the dog that what they just did was completely, undeniably unacceptable. This consequence needs to be sufficiently aversive in that you see a reduction in the behavior. All right? This is incredibly important, especially if you've got a dog who finds the reactivity self-reinforcing. You see how this connects? And they've got a history of reinforcement engaging this behavior. It needs to override that. It needs to be way more punishing than it is reinforcing. You see? Now, you might be asking, Miles, what does that look like? Well, there are 4 big levers that you pull during your punishment event. And you can pull them in different degrees and different proportions depending on your specific dog, all right? So the first big lever that you pull is physical pressure, physical discomfort, physically on the leash, on the prong collar, it's physically aversive, right? The next big lever that you pull is social pressure. Social pressure. You showing that you are upset with the dog, that you're disappointed with the dog. See? Social pressure. Very important because many dogs who are very physically resilient can also be very socially sensitive, right? The third lever, spatial pressure, right? You getting into your dog's space, creating that pressure. If your dog wants to come to you for comfort, you can step away from the dog. You see, distancing yourself from the dog. You see? So again, it depends on the dog. And the last lever, this is a big one, is time. Time, all right? The duration of the punishment event does not end, okay? The punishment event does not end until we see complete suppression in the behavior and in the body language of the dog. Okay? It does not end until we see this. And if we don't see this, we extend the time and we play with these other levers here. You see? But these are the levers that you pull. Now, in terms of time, again, it completely depends on the dog. Like it might be 2 seconds or it might be 2 minutes that the dog is in this punishment event. I'm not even joking, right? It completely depends. But I'm going to give you a couple examples, all right? And once we see the response we're looking for, the punishment event ends, and we simply carry on, allowing the dog the freedom to make another choice. That's it, all right? So let's show you guys what this looks like. So the first example, let's go ahead and take a look at Honey, all right? Honey is reactive towards other dogs, especially in his neighborhood. He's been reactive for many, many years, all right? And you can see an example of his reactive behavior here. All right, that's a dog behind a fence, okay? And you can see that behavior there, right? The arousal, the intensity, definitely self-reinforcing for sure. Also a little dash of insecurity in there, right? And so it creates a very potent display of reactive behavior, okay? So you can see that there. Now, let's go ahead and walk through one of these first sessions that Honey's owner did with him towards these fence dogs, because this is just a phenomenal execution of everything and very well done. So let's go ahead and take a look to evaluate. All right, so we're gonna be approaching these dogs up here on the right. These are some fenced dogs that are gonna be barking at Honey. I want you to pay attention to how Honey's owner, when she walks up, she is allowing him freedom of response. He's maintaining a loose leash, letting him make his own choices. And then when he makes the wrong choice, she's gonna mark it and she's gonna deliver the punishment event, all right? Now I want you to take a look. All right, so that there, it's uncomfortable, right? That's what actual punishment looks like. That response that you're looking for there. You see how the behavior was suppressed in the moment? You see, the dog looks visibly suppressed and stressed, right? Her application of pressure, the time, the physical pressure, of course, but also the social pressure, the spatial pressure. You see how you're pulling all of these levers at once during this punishment event to paint the picture very clearly to your dog that what you just did was not acceptable. You understand? That's what actual punishment looks like, okay? So we're gonna come back to this video because it's a really good demo of what his owner does after, just phenomenally executed. But I wanna jump over to another example just to illustrate this point again, just with a different dog and a different handler. So this is another one of our students, and this dog, SJ, he is very reactive towards other dogs, especially behind fences. He likes to fence fight with other dogs, right? Now, I want you to watch here. There's this dog, it's about to like pop out of the fence over here, right? And I want you to pay attention, again, to how he's maintaining a loose leash, allowing him freedom of response. When he makes the wrong choice, marks her with no, delivers the consequence, all right? And again, this is what actual punishment looks like, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look.
No. No. Do not do that. Do not do that. Do not do that. Okay.
See that response? All right. Now, for many of you, this is very uncomfortable, right? And it is uncomfortable. Nobody likes doing this. Nobody. 0 people like doing this. However, the reason why we do it is because if you want to eliminate a behavior that is self-reinforcing, SJ really likes fence fighting other dogs. He gets a good kick out of it. Really likes it. Can't have him doing that. It's unacceptable. It's not an acceptable behavior to be doing out on our regular walk. We have to communicate it to him in a way that he understands. Again, we're dealing with a self-reinforcing behavior here. If we just try to, oh, SJ, you want to come over here and get some treats for the sit? It's like, sure, I'll do that, but then I'll also do this. I'll do both. Why not? See? We have to completely squash this before we can show him how to productively behave around the other dogs, right? So that was another good example of the punishment event, right? Now, a couple handling mistakes there, right? Said no a couple times and so on. He could have used less physical pressure as well, right? But all in all, though, still a good punishment event. Still definitely got the point across, right? And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to be clear, okay? We're not looking to be clever or have a bunch of fancy whatever. We're just clear and direct in our communication with the dog. Very direct. You did this? No. Consequence. That's it. Very clear, all right? We're not dancing around it. Now, if that was very intense for you to watch and very uncomfortable, yes, that is the entire point, right? It is very intense. It is very uncomfortable. That is the point. The dog should not like it. There is no beating, there is no getting around it. We intend this to be aversive. It should be uncomfortable. It should be unpleasant. The dog should not want to experience it again. That's the entire point of punishment, you see? The dog avoids it. They avoid engaging in that behavior again. Now, the mistake that 90% of you guys watching this video are gonna make is not actually punishing the behavior. You're gonna be too afraid to, right? You're gonna be thinking, oh, my relationship with the... And it's gonna prevent you from actually punishing it. You're not gonna go all the way. You're gonna do your little pop on the leash, and then your dog gets more reactive. Oh, it didn't work. Like this type of stuff, right? When we are punishing the behavior, again, we go back to what the punishment event actually looks like. It's very clear. Like, we mark it with no. This signals the beginning. A consequence follows. That's very aversive. Like, the dog does not want to experience it again. That's the entire point. And it does not end until we see the response that we're looking for. That's it. And then once we see that response, we continue and we allow the dog to make another choice. That's simply it. Like, that's it. Punishment, and this is the thing that so many people don't understand. Punishment has nothing to do with what you do. People ask me all the time, Miles, how do you punish a behavior? It has nothing to do with what you do. Nothing to do with what tools you're doing, what you said, what you did. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has nothing to do with what you intended to do. It has nothing to do with how you feel about it. It has everything to do with how the dog perceived it and whether or not it reduces the behavior. That's it. If the behavior reduces, you punished it by definition. If it doesn't reduce, you didn't punish it by definition, right? So if you go out and you start doing whatever you think you're doing and it doesn't reduce the behavior, you did not punish it. You understand? This is like a really key point that I need you to grasp. It has nothing to do. It has everything. It only has to do with how the dog perceives it and whether it reduces the behavior or not. That's it. That's literally it. Okay? Now, once you punish the behavior, your dog will try to figure out exactly where that line in the sand is that they cannot cross, right? For the first time, you just drew a line in the sand. And you were like, hey, if you do this, this is what happens. And this is the first time it's happened. Your dog is like, holy shit. Like, their whole world is like, they're like, this has never happened. Reacting at dogs has always been good. Why is it bad now? Like, they don't know exactly yet. Again, it's only happened one time. Is this a one-off thing? Was it because I did this? Was it because the other dog did it? Like, I don't know yet. You see? Your dog is going to try to figure out where that line is. You'll notice them approach the line and then come back off. Approach the line and then cross it. And your job is to enforce that line consistently to create clarity, right? So let's return back to this example here, right? With Honey. So following his punishment event, I want you to watch immediately what he does after this punishment event, all right? So, do you guys see that behavior there? Immediately after, right? He goes out with the dogs, he gets punished. Immediately after, he kind of moves towards them, right? Let me replay it again. Again, he's trying to figure out where this line is. That's why it's important that you give your dog freedom afterwards. You can't just like run away and hide or like put your dog in a heel. Like, no, they have to be loose still. They have to be free, right? Now watch. Here, a little bit earlier, right? Right here. So now we're walking. Now he's eyed up on the other dogs. He's going to move towards them a little bit. Nothing happened there. Okay. Again, approach the line, comes off. Now this next one approaches the line, goes past. Consequence. See? And again, this owner's just doing a phenomenal job enforcing the clarity of that line. See? This is what's going to create clarity. Right now, he's still a bit uncertain because, again, he's been doing this his whole life and it's always been successful. Now, for the first time ever, it's not successful, right? And so it's going to be stressful for him to learn this. But once he does, now he'll start to learn, it's when I do this. It's when I do this that this bad thing happens. If I don't do that, well, then nothing bad happens, right? And that's where we move on to the next step. But again, we'll return back to this video, right? And again, I want you to come back here and watch SJ do another pass with this dog, right? There's the dog there. See that behavior there, right? He actually kind of like sidestepped, walked away, like intentionally avoided the other dog, right? And then they turn around and they do the same thing again. And I want you to watch what he does here. So he obviously knows the dog is there. He's not stupid, right? Very nice. All right? Very nice. Starting to, okay. If I don't do that, nothing bad happens. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. You see? You see how, like, now that we've punished the behavior, now it's like, okay, now we have like a window of opportunity to where we can now teach the dog how to behave around the thing. You see? This is the critical piece. You can't just punish the behavior. You have to show the dog how to behave around the thing next, and that's the next point, right? But we'll get there. Now, major key. We only punish the big, obvious reactions, especially in the beginning, okay? We do not punish the dog for committing thought crimes. All right, have you ever read 1984 by George Orwell? Well, in it, they live in like a dystopian future, the government taking over, it's like Big Brother, and they'll punish you if you commit a thought crime. So like if you just think about committing a crime, the police will come and arrest you, and then you'll get like reprogrammed and shit. Like it's crazy, right? But that's what people do with reactive dogs all the time. You see trainers do it all the time. They're like, oh, there he's loading, punish it. Like he's fixating, punish it. He's looking too long, punish it. Like, punish what? Punish what? What are you punishing? You're punishing you think the dog is thinking about reacting, maybe. Potentially. You see, like, we don't punish the dog for committing thought crimes. And let me explain why by showing you an example, all right? So this is Olive, the border collie, right? And this is her owner, and this is Helper and our helper dog, all right? So this is their first reactivity session. They just met up at the park, ran through everything. And I'm gonna skip ahead in the session just to show you a specific key moment that makes my point of why you shouldn't punish thought crimes, all right? So here, we're just walking around, and just for context, by the way, Olive is reactive towards other dogs and also reactive towards people as well, right? We've already punished the reactive behavior several times throughout this session. So just for some context, but I want to show you this key moment. So look at this here. She's making eye contact with our helper right now. This is making her very uncomfortable. In the past, she would explode, right? Now, I want you to pay attention.
No. Don't do that.
Owner chooses to punish the reactive behavior. Why? And a great punishment event at that, by the way. Side note. Likely the reason he chose to punish the reactive behavior was because every reaction tends to start out exactly like that. See, she's a border collie. Like she's reactive towards everything. Like when she sees something, she gets real low, staring at it, and then explodes at it, right? That's how it always is. And so likely what he was trying to do was cut it early, right, before it happened. But here's the problem. How do we know that she knows the reason we punished her was because we thought she was thinking about reacting? You see, like now we're running through some mental hoops here, okay? What are the odds she makes that connection? Very low, I might say, right? What if she makes the connection? I think I was punished there for looking at the guy. Oh, well, that's not good. Well, what if I was punished because he was looking at me? Oh, so bad things happen when he looks at me. So other people are something I should be concerned. See, now you're just, oh no. Now we might make the wrong connection here. See what I'm saying? Something you have to be very mindful of especially when you're working with certain dogs like border collies, right? Border collies, incredibly smart, very, very quick to identify patterns. That's why they can be trained so quickly. But the downside is that it's a double-edged sword, right? They learn really fast, but they also learn the wrong thing just as fast. That's the problem, right? So she can really quickly make that connection, which would not be good. We want her to only make the connection of like, hey, when you do that thing, that's what creates the consequence. It's that thing. It's not because he was looking at you. It's not because you were looking at him. It's not because he's around. It's not because you're close. Like, it's not any of that stuff. It's just when you react. It's that's the thing you can't be doing, you see? And so in the beginning, again, punish the big obvious stuff. And just to really hit this point home, just to prove the point here, take a look at this, right? So this is just 40 seconds later. Look at this behavior here. Again, making eye contact, right? The exact same thing, but she chose to break on her own. You see? And so you don't know for sure what your dog is thinking for sure, right? So that's what I'm saying. In the beginning, especially, punish the big obvious stuff. Now, we're going to come back to this session because there's some really important pieces of feedback that I gave to them that I think will be really useful for you guys watching this video. But we'll come back to that in the later stages of the training, all right? So that's the major key. So from this moment forward, every single time the dog reacts, we simply mark the behavior with no and we punish the behavior, period. There's no going back. It's over. It's done forever, period. Like, that's it. From this day forward, you are not reactive, like, period. I am forcibly putting an end to it, right? Like, that is it. It is the line in the sand. You are not allowed to cross this line. You see? Now, major key. Most people think punishment will destroy their relationship and make their dog hate them, when in reality, your dog just learns to stop doing that thing. And your relationship improves because you guys are finally on the same page, you see? Again, this comes back to that major key that we learned in the loose leash walking. You can see how there's a deliberate reason why I have people do these things in this order. There's a reason why. And I think this is something that a lot of trainers completely miss. They focus too much on the dog and they completely ignore the human. They completely ignore it. Like, you have to be very mindful of where the human is along this journey as well, so you can train the human. But anyways, I digress. Let's go ahead and jump into the next thing, which is reinforcing the desired response. So now that your dog has been free, you've released them, they're free to make their own choices. Potentially you've already punished a reactive outburst of theirs. Now what's really important afterwards is that we reinforce the desired response, right? So if the dog chooses to not react, nice, very good. You're going to reinforce this by giving them calm praise, food reward, even if they like food. So for example, dog is looking at the dog, looks away. Good. Dog looking at the dog, looks up at you. Good. Dog looks at the dog, sniffs the environment. Very good. You see, these are all very appropriate responses here. These are all great. Your dog looks at the dog and instead of reacting, they create some space. Like SJ did around the fence, right? Create space. Very nice. That's a lot better than blowing up at them. Very good. You see? And let me go back to those previous examples just to show you what this looks like in practice. So if we go back over here to Honey, you can see what happens after this. Again, if you remember correctly, we had that first punishment event, and the second punishment event where he crossed the line was, you notice, like it was much less intense, right? Because again, he wasn't as committed to the behavior. He was just testing where the boundaries of that line are. Now, afterwards, I want you to observe how his owner does not leave. Does not leave, right? We're still around. I want you to see, carefully observe Honey's emotions here, right? When you remove the reactivity, you're just left with that raw underlying emotion, the thing that was motivating the reactivity in the first place. You're left with that. So you see here, you've got some arousal for sure. You've got some little bit of insecurity, a little bit of uncertainty for sure too, right? So you got a mixture of both. And you can see how she's not leaving. She's actually going back and forth here in front of the fence. She's allowing him to sniff and engage with the environment. Again, very productive response. And you might not be able to hear, but she's also giving him calm praise when he's doing well and making good choices as well, right? And again, it all comes down back to the basics. Watch this. Where's that line? Where is it? Where is it? Might let it look. He's like, ooh, I don't know about this. Ooh. Where's the line? You see? That was a very important lesson for him to learn there. Nothing bad happens if the other dogs are reacting at you. You see? Yeah, you can even look at the other dogs reacting at you. You can even be close to the other dogs reacting at you. You simply are not allowed to react towards them. You see? Very critical lesson. But it's critical that you give your dog that freedom of response. You see? If you were to put him or just like leave the situation or just like put him in obedience or something like that, now you rob him of the ability to learn that on his own, right? Have to give him that freedom. Right? Engaging with the environment again, completely avoids the other dogs there, and not phenomenal decisions here. Again, his owner is just doing a fantastic job here with him. Just top-notch handling. Right? Again, amazing. Looking at the dog. I'm not sure about this. Oh, maintains that loose leash. Right? Feels the pressure. Immediately gives into it. Very good. Always comes back to that loose leash walking. You notice the leash is slack this whole time, right? And the reason why she's going back and forth like this is to give him an opportunity to learn. You see, he learned what the wrong thing is, but now you've got to show him what the right thing is, just as clearly. You see? And so what this really boils down to is just being clear. That's it. It's just being clear. Telling the dog no in a way that they understand and telling the dog yes in a way that they understand. That's simply it. That's it. All right? So now I want to come over here to this one as well. Because again, this one was also great, right? As we're walking past this fenced dog, praise, right? Calm praise from the handler. Nice job, man. Very good, right? Even a food reward at the end of that, right? Very nice. You see? So now you're making the incentives very clear for him. You're like, okay, you can either react to the dog and something bad happens, or you can not react to the dog and something really good happens. And I'm very proud of you for making the right choice, right? So very clear, black and white in our communication, right? Now, your goal here is to acknowledge the dog for making a great choice without going overboard. We want the dog to learn how to just be around the dogs without having insane reactions. And so you don't want to create some like weird, like, look at the dog, look at me for the treat, look at the dog, look at me for the treat. Like you don't want to do all of this stuff. It should be normal. It should be what's expected. See, we give them space, let them feel it, let them process these emotions. Don't rob them of the ability to work through it, right? Now that you've stripped away how they've previously coped with this emotion, now is the time to learn how to deal with that emotion in a more productive way. But you've got to give them the room to be able to do that, right? So move around, let them engage with the environment, let them know they're doing great. Now, the major key here is giving your dog space is critical if you want them to learn how to self-regulate and cope with this emotion productively. So let me give you another example with a dog named Hank. So this is Hank, all right? And Hank was reactive towards other dogs, especially around other dogs around his neighborhood, and specifically this vicious golden retriever, displaying some fear reactivity, right? Some boundary fence reactivity behind the fence. Keeping the other dogs away, right? He was reactive. Hank was reactive towards this dog, right? But his owners had since punished the reactive behavior, and now this is what they're left with. So I want you to pay close attention to how Hank feels right now.
Good boy.
You see that behavior? Very nice. That is infinitely better than reacting at the other dog, right? And we turn around again and we walk on past again. Hank chooses to stay on this side of the sidewalk. He feels more comfortable there. That's no problem. Nothing wrong with that. You want to be on that side? No problem. That's, again, infinitely better than reacting. He's learning how to cope with this emotion in a more productive way. Right? Now, I want you to watch this second clip. So this is Hank at a different point in time, and now they're about to pull up on the same golden retriever, okay? But again, different time, different day. Watch this response. He's already looking for it, because again, him and this dog have a bit of a history, right? He's already looking for it. Watch.
Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
So even though it was at a different time, different day, you can see that response there. You see a lot of inhibition, like other dog running up to him. Obviously, in the past, that's met with a reaction, obviously, right? But since that's been removed, since that behavior has been punished, now you start to see this move away. So he almost lost it. He got a little riled up, but then he caught himself. He caught himself and then down-regulated on his own. That's it. That's such a key moment there, all right? Because for Hank to learn how to deal with it, we've got to put him in those situations in the training. And that's what his owner did a phenomenal job of here. Not trying to hide him, not trying to avoid, not trying to distract him. Simply giving him the freedom of response and allowing him to make a choice. Not punishing the thought crimes, not punishing because he thought he was going to react after he did all that. Like, nope, let it play out. Let's see what happens. You see? And of course, if he does end up reacting, we can simply mark it with no and punish it. But in this situation, it didn't lead to that. It actually led to Hank making a phenomenal choice, right? To which we can give him some nice calm praise, let him know we're very proud of him, and even offer a food reward, right? So again, we're just trying to make this as clear as possible for the dog. All right, so now that your dog is no longer reacting towards the thing and they're making some good choices, now it's time to increase the difficulty. So if they're making great choices around the other dog, try to make it more difficult if you can, right? This is especially helpful if you've got a helper dog, right? Get closer. Make the other dog start barking or running past you guys. Make the other dog start playing with their owner, right? That'll get a lot of dogs going. You see what I mean? If you're at a dog park, get closer to the fence line. You see what I mean? Make it harder. Put your dog in a more challenging scenario and show them the right way to behave, right? How I do it is I just take dogs, I just go all the way, like in one session, right? You don't have to play around. This is the thing, like people, trainers all the time, like they'll convince you, you got to keep the dog under threshold and prevent the dog from reacting and and then you're doing that for like 3 years and your dog is still reactive. It's like, bro, you could just show the dog not to react and then just take them into a difficult scenario where they don't react and let them know they're doing phenomenal, amazing, very good. Keep doing that. And they learn very quickly what you want them to do, you see? So just be clear in your communication. Like, don't dance around it. Don't beat around the bush. Just get to it. Teach them what you want and what you don't want, all right? Again, only 2 rules. No pulling, no reacting. That's it. And give the dog an opportunity to decompress throughout the session. So one of the things that you saw SJ do, like here, right? After we passed that dog, oh man, like that's pretty stressful, Like he's been fence fighting dogs for a long time. You know, it's just what he does. And then we got a pretty significant consequence for doing that. And so we needed to let him know after, like, hey, buddy, you made some great choices there. I'm very proud of you. Like, that's what I love. Like, I love that you just did. Very nice. Keep doing that. You see? Again, just making the picture very clear. If we go back to Olive's session here, they actually took some breaks in the middle and made some space and just played, you know, played ball. Again, she loves to play. It's like favorite thing ever. And so this is a great way just to decompress a little bit, you know? If your dog likes sniffing the environment, just walk away from the other dog for a little bit. Like if you're at a dog park, walk like away, you know, walk along the trail or something like that, and like go let him sniff around and then return. See, just a nice decompress. So now that your dog is no longer reacting at the other dog and they're making fantastic choices, even in difficult situations, now it's time to move on to the next step, which is reducing the emotional response. So now that you've removed the reactive behavior, you're just left with the underlying emotion. This is the thing that was motivating the reactivity in the first place. Remember in step 1, where you figured out the emotion? That's what you're left with now. And so if your dog was, you know, arousal, reactive, or whatever, and you punish it, they're not reacting, but they're still excited. See, it's still there. Now, if your dog was fear reactive and you punish the reactivity, your dog is not reacting anymore, but they're still afraid. They're still unsure of the other dog. But it's just now they're in a significantly clearer headspace for you to operate within. And now it's time for you to address that underlying emotion, right? And this is when we start utilizing the play and the basic obedience that you built in the previous step. Step 2 was important. I told you guys. So here's how you do that. And I'm going to give you multiple examples. So if you're working with a helper dog, one of the best things that you can do is just go for a walk, right? This is actually one of the pieces of feedback that I gave Olive, the border collie, right? When they posted these videos and I was, you know, watching through it, it felt very sterile. It felt very like, it wasn't organic. It almost felt like a setup, like a trap, you know? We're at the field and we're doing a warm up and this guy pulls up and now he's here, you know, like it felt like a trap. And I could see, like, it almost felt like she perceived it that way. Like she was predicting something bad might happen here. And so we don't want that. Like we don't want her to feel that way coming into the session, right? Ideally, she comes into the session feeling very good, like very positive, she's in a very favorable emotional state. And so the feedback that I gave them was, hey, next time you guys pull up, just meet up at the park, show up early, like 10 minutes early, put her on the long line, just go play in the park. Just play, right? Their play was phenomenal. Like, it's so good. And so I was like, just play in the park. She loves it, right? And then your friend will pull up and tell him to walk over, you know, hang out, stand there, watch you guys. And then you're playing with her, whatever. Very good, very good. And then, all right, let go, all done. And then put the toy away. Oh, hey, man, how's it going? Hey, you want to go on a walk around the park? Yeah, sure, let's go on a walk around. Cool. You could just keep her on the long line and just go on a walk around, right? And that's exactly what they did. Let me show you. So this is them walking side by side. And she was on a long line here. So she had a lot of room and a lot of space to operate, right? And they just walked around the park together, right? And she didn't have to get corrected at all, which is fantastic. Again, you're doing things to set your dog up in a positive way. Like, you want them to make mistakes. That's important. But you're trying to change how they feel in that moment. In this situation, she was predicting in the previous session that something bad might happen because the dog and the person is there, right? But by opening up this way, by opening up with play, going on a walk after, even having her on a longer leash, this completely changes her perception. Oh, we're at the park having a good time. Oh, this person's here. Oh, wait, dad's talking to this person? Oh, wait, we're going to go on a walk? Oh, wait, nothing bad happens when we go on a walk together with a person and a strange dog? You see? You see how, like, this is starting to change how she's feeling now? Right? But we have to get rid of that reactivity first for this to even be possible. You understand? If you're working with a helper dog, I definitely recommend going on a walk. And if your dog likes to play, you can also do that and just have your helper dog stand around. So, like, for example, this is Ada, the Malinois. She used to be very reactive towards other dogs. Couldn't be within 30 feet of another dog. So you just get super aroused and just bark and lunge at them, right? But here, she's playing a game that she loves. They play this every day, or she loves to play. And they're having the helper dog just be there. They're just there. They're just standing. Like, that's it. And then they're just engaging and playing this game while the other dog is just there. This is called habituation. So Habituation is the process of decreasing the dog's emotional response through repeated exposure, just time, just around. Like the dog's just around. It's passive. Like you don't even have to do anything. The dog is just there and you're just doing something else, right? And so you can think about like, okay, maybe we can, play other dogs around. Yeah, maybe we can, do some obedience the other dogs around, for sure. Maybe you can just go and sniff around and explore while other dogs are around, 100%, right? It's just the other dogs are just there. It's like background noise, right? Desensitization is a little bit different. Desensitization is the process of decreasing their emotional response through a systematic process, right? You're actively decreasing it. So like, for example, you might be shrinking the distance, getting closer and closer to the thing, or you might be making the thing more and more intense, for instance, right? That's more active, but this is passive, right? But both are incredibly powerful tools for decreasing the emotional response, right? Which is your goal at this stage here. Another example, this is a phenomenal example, is pack walks. So a pack walk is just when you meet up with a bunch of other dogs and you just train, right? So this is a pack walk that our members did in Seattle. And they just met up. They just made a post in the community. They just met up with each other and they just organized this and just met up and trained, And the reason why this is so powerful is because when you can do this, it's the fastest way to just completely shatter your dog's prediction of what they thought was going to happen. Like, your dog is fear reactive. They get into this environment, they think, oh my gosh, these other dogs are definitely going to hurt me and definitely something bad's going to, and then very quickly it's like, wait, the other dogs aren't doing anything to me. Wait, nothing good or bad is coming from the other dogs and they're not leaving. Prediction error. Or, oh my gosh, I'm definitely going to be able to play with all these other dogs and it's going to be so fun and so intense. And that doesn't happen. Prediction error. You see? It's the fastest way to challenge that. And when you do, you'll see that emotional response decrease. So pack walks are fantastic. And if you're not working with a helper dog, don't worry. If you're working outside of a fenced in dog park or something like that, there's still a lot of things you can do, like for instance, like this is Indy, the husky, and she was excitement reactive towards other dogs, right? She just gets really intense and really excited. And here they're just training outside of the dog park. And you can see they're just doing something else. They're playing some food games, right? Looking around, fast positions, fast obedience. Again, and other dogs just happen to be around in the environment. Just happen to be there, you see? And over time, the emotional response towards the other dog starts to fade. Here's another example. So this is Alfie. He was more fear reactive towards other dogs. He would, if they barked at him, he would want to actually run away and flee the position, right? And so here, they're just playing outside the dog park, right? So you can see this dog park, the dog is right there. They're just out here playing in front of the dog park and the other dogs just happen to be there. See what I mean? Again, this is such a powerful thing to show your dog. We are doing this thing, other dog just happens to be there. Very quickly, that dog just fades into the background. See what I mean? But again, you have to go through those beginning steps first, of course, right? Fantastic. And if your dog isn't particularly motivated by much, like for example, this is Sierra the husky. She was reactive towards other dogs, right? But she's not, super motivated by food or play or anything like that, right? Just, much more chill. Here, they're just walking around outside the dog park. And they're actually just encouraging her to go and engage with the environment here, right? Sniff around, do your thing. Sniff around, explore around as these other dogs are here running around and going crazy. And instead of doing what she would typically do, which is reacting at the dogs, now she's learning to just engage with the environment. And those other dogs start fading into the background, right? So leverage the environment if your dog likes sniffing. And just as a thought experiment here, imagine if every time you went for a walk, you passed by hundreds of dogs. Every time you had a play session, you were surrounded by hundreds of dogs. Nothing good or bad ever came from the other dogs. They were just there. How quickly do you think your dog would get over it? How quickly do you think they would just become background noise? How quickly would those emotions fade, right? That's basically what you're striving to recreate by putting your dog in these circumstances and conditions, right? So, and the last final thing, end the session on a positive note, like Olive did over here. They ended the session with play, right? So that's always my favorite way to end the session. If you've built the play enough to where your dog will play in those environments, I always prefer to end with play whenever possible. So that's the end of your first reactivity session. That's what it looks like at a high level overview, right? Now, after the session, this piece is absolutely critical. So your first attempt is going to suck, right? And that's okay. You're still learning. Mistakes are a part of the learning process. You've got to make them, right? And after each session, what you want to do is review your footage. If you got any, this is why I strongly recommend getting footage, is because it allows you to see your training from a third person perspective, and you'll spot things that you didn't spot in the moment, right? So I strongly recommend doing this. And make a note in your phone answering these questions. What went well? What went not so well? And what will you do differently next time? All right, so answer those 3 questions in your notes, okay? The reason why you want to answer these is because next time, when you go and do your next session, you're going to review these, all right? And remember, learning equals change in behavior. So if you don't change what you do next time, it means you didn't learn anything, okay? So just like your dog, you're learning all of this stuff as well, right? Now, there are 2 types of feedback. You've got internal feedback. This is feedback that you give to yourself by evaluating the session afterwards, reviewing your footage, comparing it to what you intended to do, and so on, right? External feedback, on the other hand, is feedback that you get from others by having them review your session, answering your questions, and implementing their recommendations. So the major key here, the fastest way to make progress is to have both feedback loops running. Internal feedback allows you to make those constant small iterations like in the moment, whereas the external feedback covers your blind spots, right? And if you want me and my team to give you that external feedback on your training sessions, just like all the dogs that you've seen in this video, where we can just watch your videos, come in, give you hyper-specific feedback to you and your specific dog in your specific situation, and you want that feedback from us, then check out our private training program. It's the first link in the description, because when you go through it, you're gonna make mistakes, and that external feedback allows you to spot the mistakes that you don't even realize you're making, right? And offer suggestions and solutions that you didn't even realize were on the table. And that type of feedback allows you to make progress so much faster compared to just the general basic advice on YouTube, right? So if you want that external feedback from me and my team, check it out. It's the first link in the description. And then once you've given yourself that feedback, you simply repeat and you set up another training session, taking the lessons that you learned in this first session. And that's it. And if we go back to the very beginning, you can see here, it all connects, right? So now you might choose a higher difficulty. Now you might choose a different environment, right? Now you might have a slightly different goal. You see what I mean? And you just keep iterating like this until you've got a grasp on it and your dog does as well. All right, so now that you've set up several reactivity sessions, your dog is making some phenomenal choices, you're learning, they're learning, it's going great. Now it's time to move on and show you how to completely eliminate the reactivity, okay? So, generalization. Dogs are highly contextual learners. So in other words, your dog might learn, if you set up a session, that during that specific session, on this particular day, at this time, they were not allowed to react to the specific dog. And you must generalize the training and teach the dog that these consequences apply to all dogs in every environment, in every situation, all of the time. All right, so for example, this is Ada again, so the Malinois that we saw earlier. This is her a bit earlier on in the training process, right? And they had already set up some dedicated sessions and so on, but here they're out, at an RV campsite, and there's this dog way out in the distance, all right? And this, again, is a different context. Completely different than those sessions that you set up, outside the dog park and stuff. This is completely different, see? So take a look.
Are you still with me, Ada? Hey. No.
You see her explode at the dog there, right?
No. Don't do that. Don't do that.
And
Don't do that.
the behavior gets punished, right? By the way, this was actually one of her only, I think if I recall correctly, there was only 3 times a punishment event like this occurred. And I believe this was one of them, right? And that was it. That was literally it, right? After that, you see the picture, you see like the videos of her after, off leash around the dogs, completely ignoring them. That's because of this. But again, throughout the training process, you have to generalize it to different contexts, right? Here's another great example. So this is Wanda. We showed her a while back earlier in the video. They set up like a training session with the dog that was playing fetch. And her owner actually drove, okay? They drove like an hour away to this dog beach area
Super, richtig.
just to generalize the training, right?
Super.
Literally an hour one way just to generalize this, okay? This is like some serious commitment here, all right?
Klasse.
And she proceeded to do absolutely phenomenal, right? Made some excellent choices around the other dogs. Engaged with the environment, like really, really nice behavior throughout this entire walk, right? So excellent decisions here. But again, you have to deliberately get out there in order to generalize it. You can't just stay in your little comfortable bubble working with your little comfortable helper dog, right? Got to get out there. All right, so the next important thing here is consistency. So one major downside of punishment is that it must be applied consistently in order to change your behavior. If you're inconsistent with the application of punishment, your dog will learn to engage in the rewarding behavior because it becomes worth the risk. It's like how we speed, you know, you speed, you go a little over the speed limit because you don't always get a ticket. You know, it doesn't always happen. You know, it's like rare that it happens. You know, and so like you learn that you actually don't have to completely avoid it. Right? You should be conscious, but you don't have to completely avoid it. You can actually get away with it sometimes. You see? Imagine if every time you went 1 mile an hour over, you just automatically got billed a ticket in the mail. Automatically. Just like your car sends it to the police station or something. Like imagine that. Nobody would speed. Everybody would drive like 5 miles and under the speed limit, right? But because the punishment is applied inconsistently, we learn that it's worth the risk, you see? And so you have to be consistent. It has to be that. Like you have to draw that line in the sand very clearly. Whenever you cross it, there is a significant consequence that you do not want to experience, right? So every time, mark it with no, punish the behavior. A big reason people are inconsistent, by the way, is because they're afraid to punish reactive behavior in front of other people. Like they literally just get scared, right? They get afraid of the social pressure. What if they say something? You know, they just get nervous, and so they don't do it, right? But here's a good example of that, right? So here's two separate examples, right? So here, we're just walking. This is Echo, Border Collie, and just walking. Again, Echo obviously was reactive towards other dogs. They're going through the system, and so here was a pass. You see, 2 dogs here. We're definitely creating some space here. You know, we could have stayed on the sidewalk, right? Well, we made things a little bit easy. We're walking in the space. We create a little bit of space, and overall, he does quite well, right? So not bad. He gets a reward after that and some nice praise from his handler. Now, the second video, I want you to take a look at this, all right? So now path is much more narrow, right? Much more narrow path. And I want you to take a look.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. No.
Yeah, shakes it off, right? Very stressful. But again, excellent punishment event from his handler there, right? Good job punishing the behavior, waiting until you see that desired response, that suppression. Right? He's like, oh, fuck, this is like not good. Like dad is not happy with me right now. Like that was really bad. I should not do that again. Like that's the response you're looking for. Once you see that, okay, now we keep moving, right? Now, again, when we talk about passing random dogs, the downside with it is now that dog is gone. You see the downside of it? Like it's important in the beginning to have some sessions with a helper, ideally if you can, or like outside of a fence dog, because they don't go away, right? But later on in the training, you have to attack these scenarios. You have to go for it head on, right? If the social pressure is like a big thing for you and it's difficult to punish your dog in front of other people, the thing that you should remember is that by not punishing the behavior in front of other people, by not having consistent consequences across the board in all contexts, in all situations, you're creating more confusion and stress for your dog because your dog now doesn't know what you want them to do or not do. Sometimes something bad happens. Sometimes you're not okay with it, but then sometimes you are. Sometimes they can react and sometimes they can't. You see, it's better for you to just not do anything at that point. You see? If you're going to go, you go all the way and you make it very clear to the dog what is acceptable and what is absolutely unacceptable, right? You make that line very clear and you hold it firmly. And then your dog learns, this is where the line is and I'm in complete control of the outcome here. You see? So be fair to your dog. If you're going to do this, you need to go all the way. Now, this is also the point where your focus needs to shift. So before, you were focused on the reactivity because you didn't know how to handle it. It was like this big unknown that you didn't understand and you didn't know how to productively work through. But now you do, right? You've set up sessions, you've generalized it to different contexts, like you've got a grasp on it, right? So now you need to stop living like a war vet with PTSD, right? A lot of you guys watching this video, you're reactive. Like, you're like your dog. Like, you're like, no, we can't go there. There might be other dogs. Another dog there. Right? No, we can't do that. Oh, park. Like, you're literally like, you're tripping, okay? You just need to get out, okay? You need to get out, go do cool shit with your dog. Show them the world that they were missing out on. And so just to give you some examples here, this is Echo, the border collie that I showed you just right before, right, who was reactive towards the other dogs. They booked this trip in the mountains before starting the training. And at first they were like, I don't know if he'll be able to come. There's going to be other dogs there. I don't know. And they're like, fuck it. We just got to bring him, Like, if there's other dogs, there's other dogs there. And if he reacts, we'll punish it. Like, we know how to deal with it now. And as a result, he was able to enjoy snow for the first time, had a fantastic time together, right? And so now's the time where your focus shifts and you actually just start getting out into the world and showing the dog what they're missing out on. You expand the horizons literally. Because again, remember back to the earlier point I made about highlights, right? The highlight should be something that you guys both look forward to doing together, right? It's no longer reacting at dogs. You've cut that. So now it's like, okay, we go to the mountains, we have a good time, we walk around town on the flexi leash, weave around past dogs, past people. We go bike riding, so you taught him how to ride on a bike off leash. Like this is the type of thing, you see? Like your focus shifts. You're no longer like obsessed about the reactivity, like the reactivity. Like once you've got it and like how to handle it, then you shift into other things. The next thing that we focus on is play. This is a really big piece of the puzzle. And the reason why we do it is because it allows us to indirectly address the emotion that was contributing to the reactivity in the first place. So for the fearful, anxious dogs, my favorite game to teach them is tug, because biting on the toy, getting a good grip, fighting to win it from you requires a significant degree of self-confidence, right? And so a good example of that is Momo, right? Momo was fear reactive towards other dogs, and owner took her through the training, built up not only eliminated the reactivity, also got her off leash trained, and also started building the play significantly, right? Which is just awesome to see, right? Like, look at that commitment there that Momo is showing. Like, just fantastic, right? This is so important in building a dog's self-confidence and self-esteem, right? And for the high arousal dogs, my favorite thing to do is to weave obedience into the play in progressively more and more challenging ways, because it teaches them to control themselves in a high state of arousal, which is the thing that they struggled with in the first place, right? And so a perfect example of this is Ada, the Malinois. So again, her reactivity was rooted in arousal, a little bit of insecurity.
No.
But here you can see
Good. Down.
hitting distance commands like way out of distance, right?
Good girl. Yeah. Come on here. Heel.
She was so far away, you might not have been able to see her, but yeah, they just have a really nice like mixture of obedience, but also like challenging things, like mentally challenging things in the play itself, right? Good. And there are many different examples of this, right? It can be like, sending her to objects, having her stay in the position. When he recalls her back, throws her into a down, then calls her back. Like all types of things you can weave in to make the game more mentally challenging. And for some dogs, working closely with a human is far more than just fun. It's actually a necessity. it's a critical component required to truly fulfill them. So Ada is definitely in that category. Another really good example of that, Mate, the border collie, right? When they first started, he was extremely reactive, very, very, very intense behavior. But his owner just did a phenomenal job going through the system, sticking with it, not only on the front half in terms of eliminating the reactive behavior, but on the back half, truly giving him that sense of meaning, that sense of purpose, that it's what he needs to truly feel fulfilled, right? This working, performing a task in close conjunction with the human is what he needs on a deep biological level, right? He doesn't necessarily need sheep, right? But he is a working dog. He does need to perform a task with the human, right? And that's what his owner just did an absolutely phenomenal job with him. And so if you have these types of dogs, if you've got a working dog who is reactive, I want to make it very, very clear that when you eliminate the reactivity, your dog is going to be unemployed. All right. So you need to give them something else to do. All right. And ideally, that thing has to do with you, because that's the thing that they truly crave, that they need to feel truly fulfilled. Right. So give them that thing. For me, it's a very obvious. If you don't have access to sheep, all right, which if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you don't, this type of play, this type of highly cooperative, highly dynamic, mentally challenging play is my favorite thing of all time to do with these types of dogs. All right, so if you've got these types of dogs, take it serious. Next thing that we do is we facilitate productive social interactions. So this is a piece of the puzzle that's actually pretty important, but it's important that you know how to do it, and it is hard to do it for many people. So I recommend doing this once you have eliminated your dog's reactivity and you've achieved reliable off-leash obedience. And the reason why it's important to have that is because you're probably going to need some of that control around the other dog. All right. So for the fearful dogs, what I like doing is finding another dog that's a good match for your dog, which is easier said than done, right? You want to start out, if you do find it, like what I mean by that is the right temperament, a dog that you think your dog will likely get along with. Probably not one who's super pushy, over the top, crazy. Probably one who's a little bit more chill, a little bit more, maybe even aloof towards other dogs, or maybe even just the right amount of social. You know what I mean? Like again, it's very easier said than done. Start out, if you do find one of these dogs, start out by going for a walk, right? So just go for a walk, neutral environment. Then if both dogs are open to an interaction, you can allow a brief interaction and just see what happens. You do not force them to interact. You simply create the conditions that make a positive interaction more likely to occur. So this is Sage. She was reactive towards other dogs. She'd been with her owner at the time of recording this for about 6 months, and she had never seen her interact positively with another dog in the time that she lived with her, right? And so, important that, not only do we take necessary precautions just in case, but also we find her a good potential, a good candidate for a first interaction, And so we found the perfect candidate. All right. Oh, this dog was nice and chill, they're a senior type dog, really chill dog, and it was just, so good. Like at first, say just really intense, like around the other dog, just unsure, doesn't know how to interact with the dog. But by going on a walk, just getting some forward movement in there. Dogs are walking side by side. At first they were staggered and then they moved side by side. And the dogs had some brief interaction. They just kept on moving, engaging with the environment. And it all went very, very, very well, right? Yeah. And they ended up walking home, having a good time. They even had like a toy out, they're kind of like, messing around with the toy a little bit. It's pretty funny.
So gentle.
But yeah, they did absolutely fantastic. Here's a photo of them here, just side by side, chilling. And so that's really the key. Like, you want to find the right candidate, because again, you don't want to make everything worse accidentally, right? All right. So now for the hyper excited dogs, it's a little bit different. Like, instead of trying to, get them to open up a little bit around the other dogs, which you want to be, a little more strategic about. Here, you just need to get them around other dogs and teach them that the rules still apply, even around other dogs. So let me give you an example. So this is River, right? And River is a golden. And he was very reactive towards other dogs. All right. Arousal, arousal, just like gets really excited really fast, really easily, instantly, just, lots of arousal in there. And so in going through the process, of course, we want to eliminate that. But then, of course, we also get the off-leash obedience and all of that. Great. But then at some point, we've just got to put him around other dogs and show him that the rules still apply even around other dogs, right? So he can learn how to down-regulate his own emotions and stay cool and thinking even when other dogs are around, right? So we're just at like a kind of an open, area here, and dog is here, obviously. And they're just, nice little interaction here. See, River's a little, little intense. She tells him, let's go, and he immediately comes over, right? So again, the power of just rock solid obedience, right? Got to be able to have that nice off-leash control. Makes things so much easier, right? Here was a critical moment. So in this situation, this dog clearly is not, he's around, but is doing something else. And so what we do here is we actually teach the dog not to just go run up to other dogs just willy-nilly. Like if the other dog is coming up to you, then you can interact with the other dog. But in this situation, the other dog is not interacting with you. We are walking this way. And so we are going to walk this way. You are not going to just run over and interact with the dog. You see what I mean? This is important because for him to learn, because for these type dogs, like just interacting with the dogs can be very reinforcing. And so if you allow them to interact with every single dog that they meet, they start seeking out every single dog in every single interaction, right? And so by having a threshold where it's like, no, you can interact with the other dog if they're approaching you, or if I release you and give you permission to go and interact, then it creates a very clear boundary in his head where it's like, okay, if the other dog's around, I didn't get permission, so I just have to keep doing my thing, basically, right? And so that's basically the boundary that was enforced there. She marked it as the dog as he went over to the other dog, and that was it. And then he just came back, and now he's just going to walk past the other dog. He's like, yeah, this is kind of weird, what am I supposed to do here? There's other dogs around, But he's learning just how to self-regulate and be around dogs without having to interact with them, without being reactive, without losing his mind, just being, right? And this is a very important skill for these types of dogs, all right? So that's what to do there. Now, the final piece of the puzzle, and this is a very important piece when it comes to training reactive dogs, is the off-leash obedience, all right? Off-leash obedience is the final form of obedience training. It's the ultimate. And I believe that all dogs should be off-leash trained, all dogs. And they should know how to sit, down, place, come, and heel off-leash around distractions. And I know that a lot of people are happy with far less than that. But for me, this is the bare minimum standard. It is the minimum standard. It's the minimum. And let me explain why. The reason why it's the minimum is because off-leash obedience, when you take off that leash and you're walking your dog out in public around distractions, real distractions, and you don't have food, you don't have a ball, no corrections, nothing, just you and the dog, you are left with just your raw training and your relationship. That's it. That's it. So all of those holes that you might have in your training, all of those cracks that you might have in your foundation, all of those things that you've been kind of skating by on because you've been using the leash to kind of avoid those things, those immediately become apparent, immediately get revealed, right? And it allows you not only to spot those holes, but also to fill those holes, right? And I believe it's important that you do fill those holes for several reasons, right? So off-leash obedience, when you get it, it also shatters your limiting beliefs, right? All of those things that you thought in your head, all the things that you maybe carried before the training. Oh, he's a specific type of dog. Oh, he can't come when called around distractions. Oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to get him to listen in these environments. It shatters those limiting beliefs, right? You put your dog in those situations and they prove to you that they can. Those beliefs just are shattered into oblivion, right? And that's what I really like about it from a training perspective when it comes to training people is I love taking owners, and at first they come in with all like these mental reservations and beliefs, and then we just shatter them. We just shatter them and we show them what their dog is actually capable of, right? Because a lot of people impose their limiting beliefs onto the dog for no reason other than they don't even know why. Like they just are just carrying these things that other people told them or things that they saw online or fears that they might be holding still in their mind, right? Again, it extinguishes the fears lurking in the back of your mind, right? And it also increases the trust that you have in your dog, right? You might, again, when you put your dog in those situations and they prove to you that they can handle, like it's rock solid, your trust in them increases significantly because your ability to predict what they will do in certain situations, again, improves. Also, it increases the trust your dog has in you as well, right? So I'm a big believer in that a true relationship, there's mutual trust that goes both ways, right? So we trust the dog, we trust our training, we trust the dog, but their dog also trusts us in these situations, right? They trust us. The consequences are always consistent, right? We give the dog big amounts of freedom, but also with very specific terms that we hold them accountable to every time, right? And they don't change. They're very consistent, right? So the dog can learn to depend on us in those moments and situations. Also, it increases your confidence as a handler, right? Because when you're walking your dog off leash, out in public, past dogs, past people, past everything, like your confidence is like, at first you're a little nervous, but then after a while, like you start feeling confident. You start feeling good, like when you're walking your dog. The reason why is because your predictive power increases. Your ability to predict what your dog will do in any given situation starts to increase because you're actually putting your dog in those situations and you're seeing it, you're stress testing it in the real world, right? And every time a little hole pops up, you fix it. And then, okay, next hole, fix it, right? And then it's like, wow, now you've got like this real just tight just obedience. It's so nice, right? Such a good feeling, that confidence that it inspires, right? It also increases your options, of course, right? So instead of just being real limited to, it's so sad, like a lot of people are like, oh, I can only let my dog off leash in an enclosed area. Like, oh my God, like that's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like, think about it from the dog's perspective, just tied to you the whole time, like on a 6-foot leash, like really, like that's the whole life. Like, man, that's tough, versus a dog who gets to experience that every day. Like it's not a luxury, it's the norm. It's normal, right? Now, obviously there are terms and conditions associated with that level of freedom, right? Of course. But man, think about the difference, right? Also, as well, it's safer, right? Significantly safer, right? You have a dog who, is on the leash and maybe the leash, allows you to kind of, skate by these holes in your training that you've kind of been ignoring, let's be honest, and, the leash slips out of your hands. Your dog gets out of the house at some point. The leash fails at some point. Collar fails. When you've got a dog with that off-leash obedience, your dog behaves the exact same off a leash as they do on a leash. Like literally the exact same, like no difference. They're just wearing something. Like that's it. It's just like an accessory. It's just an accessory. That's what it is. And so when you have that, like of course it's safer, right? You can have a leash on your dog. You can have a flexi leash on your dog. You have a regular leash on your dog in any given circumstance, right? But you could also have them off a leash and it wouldn't make any difference. You see? And that's having that element of safety, having that redundancy is very powerful from a safety standpoint, right? Also, too, it's much easier, right? Much easier, so much more convenient. Like you just literally, like when you open the door, you just walk out. You just walk out with your dog. Just go for a walk. You don't even think about it. You don't even think about, oh, where's the leash? Like you just walk. And it's such a freeing feeling when you can just go on a walk with your dog and not give any commands. No commands. They're just walking and they just hang around you and they're smelling, doing their thing. And you just walk around and walk home. It's a cool feeling, right? It improves your dog's quality of life exponentially, of course. This is the main reason why we do it, right? It's for our dogs. Like, it's so much better. Like, living that life once your dog gets a taste of it, They could go back, but of course, if they had an option, they wouldn't go back. And you wouldn't go back either. It's just so much easier. It makes so much more sense once you have that level of control, right? And again, most people are happy with far less than that, But if you're like us and you want a dog that you can give them that off-leash freedom, you've got that true reliability, then click the link below this video. It's the first link in the description. We've got over 785 members worldwide eliminating their dog's reactivity and achieving off-leash control. All these people that you've been seeing in the videos, these are regular dog owners. They're not trainers. They're just regular people who committed to this, who wanted this, committed to it, train every day, ask for help when they get stuck. That's it, all right? And I know most people don't want this stuff, but if you're someone who does want this stuff, if you're like us and you want this level of obedience, you want this relationship with your dog, then click the link down below and I'll see you inside.